Yes, loud and clear.
Isaiah, go ahead.
All right.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm Isaiah Chris Davis. I'm a sophomore here in North Carolina Central University, and I'm in the pharmaceutical science major.
Cool. Well, glad to have you. Well, cool. Thanks, Nehemiah. And I appreciate you all changing your schedule. I apologize. I have to take my son to basketball practice at 5 o'clock. So I really do appreciate you being flexible. So yeah, I'm Gretchen Bellamy, and I was born on January 30th, 1977 during the blizzard. But you probably don't care about all that. But I want to share a little bit about who I am and like where I come from before I dive into these what are perceived accomplishments, right? Because that's important to recognize that. So my grandfather was born in 1871, my dad's dad, and in Statesville, North Carolina. And my father, he was 70 when my father was born in 1942. And my dad is one of 21, and I'm one of 26. And I'm eighth from the end. And I am the first in my family of all of those kids to attend college. And also the first to then go on to attain a higher degree. And my mother is white, my dad's black. My mom is a nurse. But at that time, when she graduated, she did not have to get a BA. It was just called like a nursing degree. It was a 3-year program. My dad has done so many different jobs, from like he retired as a toll taker, but he was an orderly, a truck driver, you name it. He did a lot of things to support his family. And the other thing that's really important and that I have really been reflecting on a lot, he's about to turn 79, is really like when he was 18, he's a really great football player. And 2 months before graduation, he was told by his football coach, who was white, that ends don't go to college and you might as well quit. And so my dad, could you put them all the way outside? My dad quit high school 2 months before graduation and finally attained his GED when he was in his late 50s. But always wanted to be a lawyer. And when I was, I guess, 5th grade, when I was little, he would tell me, you need to go to law school. And he didn't really know, right? So he told me I should go to Brown Law School. Well, Brown doesn't have a law school. But that's what he told me. And that's what I told my 5th grade teacher that I wanted to be, was a lawyer. And it really was because of my dad. And then I kind of flirted with different things. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a doctor, all of these other things. But I came back to the law for a variety of reasons. I didn't know that I was different than anybody. I grew up in a town called Whitehall with my white mom. And it was just my sister and I who were brown until I was in 5th grade. And it was in 5th grade that a boy chased me home and called me the N-word, which I had never heard. And that was like my introduction. And so growing up was really kind of helter-skelter, because I had on one hand, like my friends that I had from 1st grade who I loved and cherished, but then they'd say, hey, no offense, Gretchen, I'm going to tell this really super racist joke. And I'm like, you're offending me from both sides, right? My white side, because white people shouldn't say those things, and my black side, because you just told this awfully racist joke. So it was really hard to fit in. And now I know, like, being mixed is like du jour, like it's cool, right? But it wasn't cool for me growing up. It was very challenging. And so, oh, hey, Shannon, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Hi.
sorry. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Shannon Smith. I attend Clark Atlanta University. I'm a first-year MBA student. I'm a helper of Nehemiah. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
Awesome to see you.
I'll jump off at about 4:15, and then I'm gonna let Shannon do the question and answer portion.
Okay. Okay. So, so that's just like my background. And when I decided I went to American University initially, I was a really a strong volleyball player and got lots of offers from Division I schools and also track. But I chose to go instead to American University because I got a scholarship for academics and it was a Division I. So I was like, okay. So I walked on to the volleyball team and I only lasted a year and a half there. I had some tragic things happen with friends of mine. And so I took a semester off and transferred to the University of Delaware and went immediately abroad. I went, and it was 1997. And that was the year that Princess Diana died, which was pretty interesting too. So going there just about 3 days after she passed away was very impactful. And while I was studying, there was an offer, and I don't know if this organization still exists. It was called STA Travel, like student travel. And they had this 2-for-1 deal. And I know it sounds like I'm going into the weeds, but I want you to understand like how all of those things in your life converge. So I ended up, I'll save you the story if you ever want to hear the whole version, because it is crazy. I ended up going to Malaysia. Okay, Nehemiah, I got you. I ended up going to Malaysia on a whim, not even knowing. When I paid for the ticket, the lady said, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "Well, yeah, where's Kuala Lumpur?" Like I had no clue. And so I went there, and that was the first time that I saw homeless people who were just sitting there, like very passive, and a small child, and that I can picture them still, however many years later, what they looked like. And it was just too much for me. So when I got back to the University of Delaware, I worked for a short time at Blockbuster when it existed. And then I moved on to be an assistant house manager at a homeless shelter. And I thought it was awesome because I was getting paid $10 an hour. And I basically was a babysitter, for the children, while the house manager was able to go and support the women. But I'm a quick study. And one day, this is when email was first started, I got an email saying, "What are we going to tell Gretchen? She doesn't, she no longer, the house manager quit." And so I became the house manager. I was a junior in college, so full-time student. Now I had a full-time job, helping women who are homeless for a variety of reasons, counseling them and helping them get services. So I just adapted. And what I did was just really look at, use the advice that my mom gave me, honestly. Those were the things that I would say to them. It wasn't anything that a social worker may say. I don't have any clue. But I just went with what was inside of me. And that job I worked, it was called STEM. That position was, again, life altering. So when you think back to that homeless family I saw in Malaysia, now here I am responsible. And it was a long-term shelter. So you could be, they could be there, it's transitional. They could be there for a month, they could be there for a year. But the goal was to get them employment and their own house. Awesome. And so I did that for a lot of years, finishing up my undergrad. And after that, I accepted a position where I was going to be, I was an outpatient drug and alcohol counselor. And I had to give that job up. I did both jobs because my clients were overlapping. So then I became a bankruptcy paralegal. And I was like, this is not as good as it gets for me. This is not where I want my life to be. And so I had taken the LSAT just because I didn't know what to do after graduation. And I applied to be a Peace Corps volunteer. Now, I do not recommend listening to your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend about career advice, which was, you should go to Peace Corps and you're great at arguing, so you should be a lawyer. But I did. So I ended up going to Peace Corps, leaving both jobs. and going to Cameroon. And again, it was that moment like, hey, you're going to Cameroon. I was like, oh, where's Cameroon? Okay. And so I went to Central Africa and I was there for 8 months and I got very ill. And it turns out I was just really allergic to dust mites, but no one knew that. So I got medically separated and then from Peace Corps. And then I came back to the US and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I'd already taken the LSAT. So I just applied to law school. And this is where I'm going to give you some advice. And this is like, yeah, you make the choice. I was given two schools of thought. So I got into Case Western Reserve University School of Law, and the dean of the law school called me to tell me that I was offered a full ride. And I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I'm going to law school no matter what. And then on my birthday, remember January 30th, I got into Duke University, and Duke had the JD LLM program, and the LLM part was in international and comparative law. I knew that I wanted to be abroad and do international